Well, good morning, all. I would like to call this meeting to order and welcome all members of council to our meeting this morning. Welcome also to all of our staff that are in attendance that will provide us facts and information so we can make decisions in the best interest of the Corporation of ACW and all of our full-time and seasonal residents. Welcome also to all members of the public that are joining us this morning and the media who may be in attendance. Meetings of council are live streamed on the Township's official website in accordance with the live streaming and virtual participation of meetings policy. Do any members of council have a pecuniary interest to indicate at this time of any agenda item that we have today? Seeing none, thank you. We do have two sets of minutes, those being from the 12th of August of our open council meeting and our public meeting, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for the adoption of these minutes, please. Councillor Forrester and Blake, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council hereby adopts the minutes as provided in items 3.1 and 3.2. Are there any questions on these minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Open forum is an opportunity for any members of the public that would like to make any comments regarding any agenda item that we have today. The comments will be limited to 5 minutes, and our Deputy Clerk Thompson will time it so that a timer will go off at the 4-minute 30-second mark. And if there's anyone that would like to make any comments, please indicate that. Go to the microphone, indicate your first and your last name and the item that you would like to address, please. Mr. Bollinger, first, please.
Good morning. I like to talk.
Would you indicate your just first and last name?
Oh,
please?
My name is Paul Bollinger. I like to talk section 9.1, 60.2, 60.4 till 60.10. To begin with, I have a hard time to find a start. It's a very complex issue. But if I went through all these letters, I found a beginning. Number one, I don't take any advice whatsoever, no guidelines, nothing from people who live in Yonge Street in downtown Toronto. Number two, this group of people, they have time to send these letters to the council in this chamber here. They should be very thankful to have their daily bread, have a glass of cold milk to drink, an egg for breakfast, and a pork chop on their barbecue. They shouldn't go after a whole system in farm business that works so far, and it works. Obviously, we are the only township in Huron County. We don't have this bylaw. To me, that's a good sign. Obviously, we don't need them. The system is working. Farmers are not stupid. They are very, very well educated. They go to pesticide courses. They work with OPP and insurance company together on the organization called SCHIP. They sacrifice land for correction of water courses, sacrifice land for buffer zones. They plant windbreaks. They plant trees on waste farmland. They managing woodlots. They do everything to keep our environment nice and clean and safe whatsoever. So if people in the cottage community doesn't like our system, then please leave and leave us alone. We don't need more guidelines. We don't need more bylaws. We have enough, and enough is enough. What we need, it's an open public meeting. Invite everybody and listen to all the taxpayers here in our beautiful municipality. For example, I'm 100% sure we will get the gym and the Brookside School to do that. It's big enough. Yeah, but as I said before, we have enough regulation. We don't need more. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you very much for your comments. Is there any other members of the public that would care to make any comments at this time? Sir, please go to the microphone, indicate your first and last name and the agenda item you'd like to address.
Yeah, my name is Brian Storts. I'm here on item 9.1. I'm the representative of the Kintail Beach Cottage Association. I'm joined today by Lori McKim-Lang, who is our president. I've been here on a number of occasions in support of the recommendation that's come forward from staff to bring forward a bylaw. And by the way, I grew up on a farm, so again, I'm originally a farmer, so it's not like we're not again sympathetic to the complexities of farming and some of the conflicts and so on. But again, just here again to go on record to support the staff recommendation.
Thank you very much. Is there any other members of the public that would like to make any comments?
Council and council staff, Ashfield staff, Colborne-Wawanosh staff. My name is Chris McLennan. I live in the northern end of the township. And I got to say, the property standards bylaw kind of gets my blood boiling a little bit. Like Paul stated, I don't feel we live in an area that needs this. I'm very curious as to whether the farm population has been informed about this. I went up to the Amberley store on Saturday, talked to between 30 and 40 farmers who knew absolutely nothing about this. Like, they had no clue that this was even being discussed. And to say honestly, they were pretty wild about what the heck, and they don't even know what it's about yet. Just more regulations. My memory serves me correctly, the last time that council tried to bring in a property standards bylaw, this council chamber was full to capacity, and there's people actually almost lined back up to the township shed with people that were concerned, which obviously shows that the farm community does have an interest in this. I know by going like the TFBPA, you try and put a bylaw that pertains to that. I myself I'm a farmer. Spent most of my last 15 years trying to pay for my farm. I don't have a drive shed. My equipment sits outside. I can't afford a drive shed. If you want to say normal farming practice, well, look at all my neighbors. Every one of my neighbors has a drive shed. Their stuff's all in, out of sight. My stuff's out of sight, like it's out where people can see it. I keep the grass cut around it, but technically by making this law, you're making me not really a criminal, but would be making me that I'm doing something wrong, which I don't feel I am. None of my neighbors would think I am. In regards to Brian Stoltz's comment about the property on Mackenzie Camp Road, I'm assuming that's what it's about, Kintail Beach Association. I'm best friends with the fellow that owns that property. Nobody contacted him. Not one person. He had no clue that his property was offending anybody until 4 weeks ago, when I contacted him due to a letter I read in the newspaper. Township staff has his contact information. He was a township employee right up till 3 years ago. Kintail Beach Association wrote a letter May 18th to council. I would hope that council looked into this. There's names on this letter representing 34 properties. One of the ladies has dementia and she's in an old age home. I'm quite sure she didn't agree to have her name on this. 3 of the other cottage people that are on this letter, I do work for them. I contacted those people. They did not agree to have their name put on this letter, so I don't know how come their names are on here when they didn't agree to have this on here. I'm also very concerned about council with some of the correspondence. One of them that was for this meeting, and I quote this, August 27, 2025. The number of farms in our township, like anywhere else in the province, is shrinking, and the number of single-family lakefront and close to lakefront properties are increasing. You folks are outnumbered, and only hope no one from the lakefront areas shows interest in running for your council seats. Other lakefront communities are finding the new buyers from larger metropolitan areas are running and winning seats in municipal councils and are changing the face of their prospective areas from agriculture to their needs. As I reminded you from my last submission for the August 12th hearing, The outside world has found our little Shangri-La. They like what they see and they're coming for it. The peace and quiet we once knew, living hand in hand with our neighbors, and whether they be farmers, business cottagers, or just rural residents, will soon be gone. I don't know. I take that as a threat. I'm very proud of my township. And I think the council, over the past times that I've been attending council meetings for the past 24 years, has done a fairly good job. To me, as I read that, that almost sounds like a threat that, well, we're coming, and if you don't do what we want, then we're going to outvote you. That scares me, that an organizations would have that type of thinking. You know, I really think that, as Paul stated, that this should be put out in the public. Just from my experience of talking to farmers and that on Saturday, I think everyone should be involved in this before a decision is made. You know, in the case of Mr. Forger's property on Mackenzie Camp Road, he came home, he spent 2 weeks, worked really hard every day cleaning that property up. He had no clue that that offended anybody. If he had been contacted, a solution could have been reached without going to creating a bylaw and trying to make him a criminal. Sorry, went over my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Are there any other members of the public that would like to make any comments on any agenda item, please?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Barbara Smythe. I am a taxpayer, and I'm here for agenda number 9.1. As I'm sure all council members know, and maybe the taxpayers don't, but Schedule A of bylaw number 12-2019 is a council code of conduct. This I'm sorry. This code highlights key principles by which every member has made a sworn oath to abide. And I will highlight what I feel is the most important in this situation. Members shall understand that they are at all times representing the township and of council, and recognizing the importance of their duties and responsibilities. Take into account the public character and their functions, and maintain and promote public trust in the township. Members shall avoid the pros to influence their office and act without self-interest. Members shall serve and be seen served in the public in an honest and delegate manner. Members of this council have an ethical responsibility to work in the best financial interest of all taxpayers in this township as elected officials. Decisions made must be in the best interest of the entire township, including farmers and business owners who have a long history of being the backbone of this township. Residents who have lived here for generations have created a community that you are mandated to protect. The current matter presented by the Cottage Beach Cottage Association Group is one of many attempts to discredit and attack Ken Brinley. Over the past 10 years, there has been an increased degree of hostility, abuse of emergency services, and through excessive phone calls, many violations of bylaws, and over 20 encroachments and property damage. Disregard for legal binding drainage agreements, slander through public media.
Point of order. Point of order, sir. The agenda item is property standards, not individuals.
Exactly, that's just what I was going to comment about. So please address the property standards, and individuals are not to be attacked. Thank you.
I was here at a previous meeting and I felt all kinds of attacks on us. So yeah, there's all kinds of things that have been going on that most people don't realize. And that is the basis for the situation that we are in, and the situation for why this is being forced on to the whole township. And we feel that that is very wrong. It's an abuse of township time and resources. Should council allow this motion to pass, it should mean that you would be enforcing a $50,000 fine. Let's say, for example, on an elderly farmer who has a barn or a shed that's kind of falling down. So will this mean that you will be sending somebody into people's backyards to do inspections regularly? This motion, should it be passed, would be enforcing would be enforced to everybody in the township, not just us. In ACW, farm properties, small business properties, cottage properties, and even properties owned by Huron County and by the municipality of ACW all have stuff in their yard. This stuff may be needed in some way. We all have different needs. In our case, it's inventory. In the case of the township, it is what is needed to do their job. It may look like junk to somebody, but to others, it has a purpose. Our situations are all unique, and who is anybody to judge? This council's decision can be made for the sole purpose of one taxpayer or group. I urge you to not be part of this petty nonsense. I'd just like to say that I would urge everybody to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, and let's find a way for everybody to coexist. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any other members of the public that would like to make any comments, please?
Good morning, Council. My name is John Brindley. I'm an ACW resident. I'd like to talk about property standards of 9.1. I strongly disagree with this amendment to the property standards. This change will severely impact the livelihoods of farmers and small business owners in ACW. I believe there should be an impact study done to confirm who this affects and to what cost. I disagree with the amendment because changes to the property standard conflicts with zoning bylaws. So you can either enforce your zoning bylaws or you can do your property standards, but you won't be able to do both because our zoning allows us to have buy and sell used and new commodities, which we have on our property. But as per your property standards, that is saying that cannot happen. So this is a big concern that needs to be addressed. The Huron County also has members in place like Ministry of Environment, Maitland Valley, the Huron County Health Board. So if there was an issue, they are the ones responsible and oversee everything that's in place as we speak. So this stuff that you have at hand does not apply. And as for influenza A, the bird flu, and how I see this going down is not good. This is a biohazard breach. You cannot have, because once this is put through, your property standards officer needs to be trained of where they can go and cannot go, because there's a reason why farmers put no trespassing signs on their property, because of biohazards. Spreading the alien flu amongst different farm communities is not a good thing. I believe this needs to be looked into heavily. And the liability, if you, because as you know, if this bird flu breaks out, they normally burn the barn and all animals with it. So this is serious to take into consideration. The FPPA, I'd like to speak on that as well. Who is going to define what normal farm practices are. And I do not believe that one person should have the right to to say what a normal farm practice is. To some, it could be one thing, to others, it's something different, which is very concerning. And the big thing is how much is all of this going to cost the township? As you know, obnoxious weeds, high grass all around the township, signs that are not up to standards, roads that are not up to standards. And as my aunt has said, you have stuff outside of your buildings that is no different than normal use, but conflicts with what you're trying to put through. And this is a direct attack on small business, I feel, and farming. And this is a direct attack to the Brindley family, again, and the harassment needs to stop. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Are there any other members of the public that would like to make any comment regarding any agenda item that we have today? Sir?
Sir, thank you. My name is George Dark, and I'm here for 9.1 property standards. I've been here before. I do live on Yonge Street. I also live at ACW on the Lake Shore. Half one, half another. It's a great joy of my wife and I and our family to do so. We pay taxes in both places, and so support both of the municipalities that we live and enjoy a lot. We're here to support council's report. The analysis that's behind it is very solid, and we've submitted a letter, but I'm just going to give you the three concluding things that I think are important. The first is that your official plan has policy which already starts this. The provincial act is referenced as one of the policies under agriculture section in your official plan. The idea behind that is to promote farming, not discourage it. I would say the last thing that this group of people wants to do is create an issue that's a wedge in our community. Our world is too divided already. It's not our intention. You know, the people here who are farming are a big part of why the township is successful. We certainly appreciate that's where our food comes from. We know that. We don't want this to be a wedge issue. If education is required, that's completely appropriate to do so. But your official plan sets the stage in policy for this to happen. And of course, any changes to zoning bylaws, as it says in the official plan, are the implementing tool that you use to make the policies work. So that's already in place. I think that on the issue of divide, property standards in all of the rest of Huron County are a township-wide issue. It's not partitioned at individuals. It's not partitioned in what you do or how you use your land. You know, it states in them they're for public health, safety, comfort, convenience, and general welfare. Why wouldn't you want that applied across the entire township? Why would some places have that measure of public policy control and others not? Especially in a case where the vast majority of the land in the township is exempt. So public health, safety, comfort, convenience, and general welfare apply to a very small portion of this township. And that's probably not defensible. It's risky, and it's probably not a good idea. The idea that we would stand alone in all of Huron County as a place that does not have policies for public health, safety, and welfare, that we're in fact a hole in that system, is a highly risky proposition. Certainly not one that's going to lead to the success long-term of ACW. Certainly not going to protect the larger body of people who are the tax-supporting people who are living here, or live here part-time, or live here all the time, or work here. Everyone has the right to the standards that would allow for public health, safety, comfort, convenience, and general welfare as a resident of this community. We highly support the material that has been brought to you by your staff. We understand the great due diligence they've done to create that, and we're fully supportive of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Are there any other members of the public that would care to make any comments regarding any agenda item that we have today? Please.
My name is Jim Peaver, and this is for 9.1. I think it's just very important to say that having this moving forward affects people and their businesses. It affects what people have to spend their money on, and in the farm community, I think that's very, very important. With a lot of your constituents here, they are farmers and it is farmland. So what I feel has been missed, and maybe I'm wrong, is this affects a great number of people in your community. Bring them together, talk to them, figure out what a best practice going forward would be that is sustainable for them and their businesses, and see if there's something that can be a workaround or that you can work together. Because another county or many counties have done this type of thing doesn't mean it's cookie cutter. Doesn't mean you have to do the same. You could be a leader and find a better way that works and make sure it works for all the parties involved, including the cottagers. That's what I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other members of the public that would care to make any comments regarding any agenda item at this time?
I have to apologize to you because I'm not aware of this action. I was asked to come to talk to you on past experience.
Would you just indicate your first and last name
Bob
and
Allen.
the agenda item, please, sir?
I don't know what the agenda item is. I was just told that it's on the property standards.
Okay, property standards.
Being the same,
And your first and last name, please?
Helm. Bob Helm, H-A-L-L-A-M.
Thank you. Please proceed.
So I was going to bring forth past experience. 20 years ago, we had a committee on property standards. It was costing the township a lot of money. And it was handled in a diplomatic way with the people and not in an arbitrary manner. You can deal with a lot of things on certain things, like insurance. I remember the person wanted me to marry a bunch of hens. It's getting pretty ripe. I says, you just call the insurance company and you're going to bring the health unit in. You have bylaws here on the property standards. And if you oppose that, I don't know the fact on Brindley's, but it was mentioned here that the barn's sitting there. If you put the Property Standards Act on them, that would put pressure on the insurance company to help get this cleaned up. We have people from the city, and they're quite happy here, and they don't want to impose on us. And you've got to take a second look at what you're doing. You don't drive a finishing nail with a sledgehammer. You can overreact. Don't abuse your authority on trying to solve a problem. You could be creating in fact, I know you'll be creating a lot bigger problem than you are. It's time to sit back and look and rethink this policy and look in what it's causing. Farmers, I can go up our road, everyone's guilty if you impose this. The property standard or right farm legislation, that is a stacked deck against you. What is the common weather, normal weather practice? What is normal farming? You'll get a different opinion every time. So that doesn't protect the farmers. Goodwill between the city and them. I dealt with some of them. They're happy here. I don't try to impose it. I'm sitting right beside Dungan. I call them my neighbors. I don't want to impose any problems on them. So all I'm asking you to do is sit back, pause, and rethink, and deal with the problem, and not create a bigger one. That is where the problem is, council. Rethink what you're doing, because you have property standards bylaws, and enforce what you got. Don't let the authority over to your head just because you have the ability to pass bylaws and put big numbers on fines. Deal with it. Deal with the person individually if there is a problem. That is where you solve your problems. You don't solve it in the courts. You're going to make lawyers happy, and one thing or another. You can solve the problem without using a big hammer. My mother always said there's a big difference between having a bowel movement and tearing your rectum. Don't overdo it.
Okay, thanks for your comments.
So rethink and pause. And I'd advise the councils, if you do vote on this, ask for a recorded vote to protect yourself. Thank you.
Yep. Are there any other members of the public that would care to make any comments at this time regarding any agenda item we have today? Last chance. Okay. Thank you very much to everyone for your input this morning. We do not have any delegations for today, so we will move on to item number 6, specifically 6.1, which is in the Treasury Department, the bylaw fee update. Council have been provided with the bylaw fee update that we will consider in Section 18, if that is the will of Council. The noted changes are highlighted in the site plan control. Council have agreed to this at a previous meeting, and the approved updates to the Schedule B by the bylaw by the Lucknow and District Recreation Board. Are there any comments at this time before I would ask for a show of hands? Are we in support of adopting the, consider the adoption of this in Section 18 as a bylaw, and I would ask for a show of hands if we're in support. And that is supported by Council. Thank you. 6.2 is the reserve and reserve fund policy, and it is a matter of consolidating this. We have agreed to this at a previous meeting. And again, are there any questions or comments on this? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, first of all, I know this was a staggering amount of work, and I'm very, very excited to see it. I've been tracking these reserves quite some time. This should make it a lot easier, and I know that in the short term you referenced that the department heads, you'll work with them. And I think once everybody gets on board, it's going to make everything run really smoothly and make it a lot more transparent. So thank you for this. As the policy bylaw that's in Section 18, I did read that. I'm very excited by it. I have several questions about it. One of them is, well, I think that, let me ask for procedure first. So we agree to this, and then the draft comes back, and then the tweaking begins. Is that kind of correct?
Okay, I will defer for a response from our clerk, please.
Ideally, tweaking would have kind of happened at the July 19th. I know that the Schedule B, I believe it was, wasn't at the meeting before. However, if council would like to have some tweaking done, we can absolutely bring it back.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Miltenberg?
Kind of, because I actually think it's really great. I do have a whole bunch of, maybe not a whole bunch, but several small questions, which probably nobody cares about but me. I'm wondering if I could get it. It's a 49-page report, and it has at least 44 different reserve funds that are being amalgamated. and I'm really interested in them, and I'm wondering if I could get a copy of that and then meet with the treasurer just to say, I understand, can you explain it to me? Because I'm not trying to micromanage, I'm just trying to understand some of the decisions that were made. Or, for example, going forward, we have a procurement policy if we spend money for anything, right? So now we're going to be looking at funds, and the rate that's being quoted is the CIBC rate, which makes me wonder, and this is just wondering, do we only deal with the CIBC? Did we just pick one? Or if we're talking about putting one in a large amount of money into a fund for a while, is that just at the discretion of the two, or is there a policy behind how that's chosen? Like, I have questions like that, which are just curiosity necessarily, not necessarily arguing with how it's done, just wondering how it's done.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I'll defer to our CEO for response, please.
Jennifer, we're on section 6.2, the reserve funds. I think you're talking more about the next one, the investment policy.
Well, there's two, I guess I probably jumped in, but section 6.2 references the bylaw in section 18, which references all the funds that we're amalgamating. Am I correct on that, or was that 6.3?
6.2 is just the reserve funds policy, and we already addressed that back in July, like Florence indicated. And council were okay with the policy at that time. And then Ellen indicated, the treasurer Ellen at that meeting indicated that she was going to lump them into those categories, which she has done, and that's for information purposes of council. And the other part you're talking about, the CIBC.
Is actually 6.3?
It's 6.3, that's the investment policy.
Okay.
I want to clarify that because I think you go down a different road than you thought. So.
Well, I think I'm going down a whole bunch of roads.
Okay, and our clerk, please.
So procedurally speaking, if in principle the policies are adequate and you feel you're satisfied with the policies as they are, I would suggest the council consider them in section 18. If you have questions of the inner workings of them, I would suggest maybe meeting with Ellen at a later time, just so that we can have it dealt with. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So I did speak with Ellen previously, and I think she's excited that someone's as excited as she is about this report. So, Ellen, if you could print that off for me, and then we'll have a nice little chat about it sometime. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a show of hands if council is in support of considering the adoption of the reserve and reserve fund policy in section 18 as a bylaw. And that is supported by council. Thank you. 6.3 is the investment policy, and again, we would consider the approval of this in section 18 as a bylaw. Do we have any questions or comments on this? CAO, please.
Yeah, we won't be adopting a bylaw today. If council's okay with this policy, we'll bring it forward to a following meeting.
That is correct. I misspoke at a future meeting. Any questions on this? And if not, questions?
Well, I already accidentally put them at the last one, and I'll bring it forward to when the draft comes forward. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This will be for a future meeting. I'm going to ask if council is in support of this coming back to a future meeting. Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. We have nothing under planning today or building department. Under administration we do, and that is 9.1. And that is the Property Standards, the Agricultural Zone and Food Production Protection Act. Council have been provided a report, and staff have prepared an amendment to the current property standards bylaw to remove the blanket exemption for lands zoned agriculture and replacing it with language clarifying that the bylaw applies to all lands except to the extent, and I think this is very important, that a practice is protected under the Food Production Protection Act as a normal farm practice, and include a reference to the FFPPA and the role of the Normal Farm Practices Protection Board in adjudicating these potential disputes. The intent of this is to consider the adoption of this to proceed with an engagement process. We had that comment at open forum. That is the intent. It will not be put in place today. It will be the process. And to have an open dialogue with all residents of our municipality that would care to make a comment on this. So I will open it up now to any members of council for any comments on this. And I'll go first to our Deputy Mayor and then to Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can't support this as it is right now because there's a whole lot of questions, and I would like to see us have some special meetings and bring the public in on this, because I'm just going to read a bunch of the questions that I have, okay? I don't want answers from them. I just want to put these questions out there. All right, we'll start with number one. If there is a complaint, who pays for this? Like it says, it's normal farming practice, but will our lawyers or will a farmer have to get a lawyer? I don't know that. Burning, can a farmer burn brush? It's acceptable now. It is brush. We don't want them burning old tires and bale wrap and stuff like that, but they should be able to burn brush. Parts machinery, is it okay, or do we have to remove it? So if there's a complaint comes in about a gentleman that has a couple combines sitting behind his shed that he's using for parts, if this complaint comes in, then is it drawn into the fact that we have to go look at this and send a bylaw officer out there, and then the farming practice comes in, and then maybe a lawyer? And same with manure storage, okay? Like there's lots of farmers, and farming practice is now that manure storage has to be undercover. And I know thousands of, well, not thousands, but a lot of people who don't have that any coverage. And storage units, like containers and trucks. I know farmers that have them. They keep their snowmobiles or their lawnmowers or their stuff like that in there. Will that come into play? So, because normal farm practices is not the same for everybody. Like, my normal farm practice is probably different than your normal farm practice. And right now, and I never thought of this, but one of my neighbors did, like, there's so many people now with drones that, okay, once upon a time, I kept all my junk behind my barn so nobody could see it, and it was out of sight, out of mind, you know, sort of thing. But now, there's a drone or an airplane flying over. Okay, they can see this. So if they put that in, do I go to the normal farm practices again and have to have somebody come out and look at this and defend myself? So anyways, that's my comments, and I would like to see us have some workshops, maybe 4, around the township, bring everybody, inform them as to what we might do, what we might not do, and then as a council, I think we should meet and go through it and see what we can live with and what we can't live, and get some more information on it. We definitely need more information, because as I said, I can't support this as it stands. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, and I think the purpose of this today would be to proceed with that engagement process publicly. Councillor Hickey, please.
Thank you. Through this process, it brought me to, or brought the attention of the Farming and Food Protection Production Act. I've never heard that before, and I know a lot of other people around this table hadn't heard of it before it came up in conversation. And a normal farm practice on their website states it's conducted in a manner consistent with proper and acceptable customs. So what's proper and acceptable? And followed by similar agricultural operations under similar circumstances. Okay? And if there's an issue, it goes before the normal Farm Practice Protection Board. So I reached out to the normal Farm Practice Protection Board, and after a week and a half, I got a response from OMAFRA. They forwarded my request, or my questions to OMAFRA, and all the OMAFRA did, the Agricultural Information Contact Center, all they did was cut and paste off the website everything I could already see. I had specific questions, as we already heard. What happens if, in scenarios? And nobody could give me an answer. I didn't get one from the normal Farm Practice Protection Board, and I didn't get one from OMAFRA. So I'm not too confident in this Farming and Food Production Protection Act, because I don't know if nobody's ever asked the questions. Nobody has the answers, but why I can't get it from 2 different sources kind of stumped me on that one. I reached out to other municipalities. It's stated in the report today, all other municipalities provide that property standards apply to all properties. So we're not just talking agriculture, property standards apply to all properties. Well, I reached out to Morris Turnberry, and they actually have a breakdown. They have property standards bylaw, but then a clean yards bylaw. And they have 2 exemptions for agriculture in the clean yards bylaw, not in the property standards. Center Huron, property standard bylaws is not black and white, they say to me. I can tell you that we do not have a blanket exemption, and some issues are enforced. We draw the line on what is considered normal use, which makes it a gray area. So that's another example. Blue Water Township, in their bylaw, you'll see that it is primarily directed at residential properties, not agricultural farm properties. Part 5 is for non-residential properties, but the reference is to industrial and commercial. So that's just an example of, it's not just agriculture, there's industrial, commercial. It's not a blanket bylaw across other municipalities, across all industries. There's an example for that. Huron-Kinloss, our neighbors to the north, in their bylaw, they talk about the property standards set forth in Article 3 of this bylaw are hereby prescribed as general standards for maintenance and occupancy of a property, regardless of the property type or use. The following section states, the standards set in Article 4 of this bylaw are hereby prescribed as maintenance and occupancy standards to be applied specifically to all residential properties, which shows, again, there's 2 different, it's not blanket across across any township really, across, and it's not just agriculture. We've seen industrial and commercial in that also. So I don't think you can blanket it across just our area. There's other pieces to it also. We've talked about zoning bylaw in the past year in this township, and that was a year process. We had meetings, it came to this council multiple times, we had public meetings, we had consultation, we had stuff going out in mail to the properties owners. People of the township knew what was going on over the course of the year. Right now, we're doing short-term rental bylaw. That's been going on for a year. We had a timeline for a year, started October 24th, and it goes, or October 29th, 2024, and it goes to October 28th, 2025. We had a laid-out timeline of things we were gonna talk about, other areas we were gonna review, other townships that have short-term rentals. We have a open house plan coming up in September. We actually had a game plan to expose people and tell people what the changes were gonna be. But for this one, we've been talking about it in the summertime. 2 months, 3 months maybe, approximate. We've had 2 months. The majority of the concerns are coming from one specific cottage association, and the majority of the concerns talk about one property. So is this bylaw answering one problem, or are we looking at, as it was said in open forum today, the whole township as a whole? What can we do better as a township for everybody in the township, not specifically to one? And as far as the breakdown for public consult, what I see is there's going to be papers posted around the community up in St. Helens, Ben Miller, or St. Helens, Dungannon, and wherever those posts are, and social media. Well, where's the open houses? Where's the public consultation, the back and forth? This seems, and it seems to be pushed through at the bad time of year. As it was stated, people in the township are not aware that we're even talking about this. We would not, as a council, bring something to council that would affect seasonal people in January, pass it by March, and send them a notice on Facebook saying, here's the new law that we installed while you were away, while you were not paying attention. That there would be a lot of issues with that, and I think there'd be a lot of issues with this also. It's just the wrong process, and from the other bylaws we've talked about, we've actually laid it all out and give people a chance to talk about it and bring us feedback on it. So for this, I'm voting no today. If someone around this table in new business wants to bring up property standards in all ACW, and we can open it up all, I would be for that. But for this specific one, I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your comments. It's my understanding that the intent of this today, it will not be passed to be implemented today. It is to engage in the process. That's my understanding. Any other, Councillor Miltenberg, please?
Yeah, I was under the same impression as these two gentlemen that we were voting on something to pass and then we were going to implement it later. Can I have some clarification before I go on?
Absolutely. Clerk, please.
So I would like to make a point of clarification that the report has a recommendation in it that, generally speaking, when a report comes to council, it's inclusive of what the intention of that report is. The intention of the report is to request council make those changes. If council chooses to undergo a consultation process, that's by no means in contradictory to, like, that's not something that's contradictory to what staff wants. We will do what council wants. So my suggestion is that if that's what council wishes to do, we can undertake that 100%. Just with the short-term rental, the conversations around what to do about that happened for a couple of years before we even got to a point where we thought, okay, we should have a committee struck and we should deal with it, you know, have certain members of the community, all of that. And that evolved not from a single meeting or two, it evolved from staff recommendations and then council, you know, feeling tugged by different communities. They decided that it'd be best to do it that way. So again, from staff's perspective, the report is as what it is. The content of that does support changes. However, if council is not ready to do that and they wish to undertake a public consultation, we are more than happy to facilitate that.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Miltenberg, please continue.
Thank you for that, Florence. So to start with, I don't think I'm alone when I say I've heard a lot about this. Inundated with emails, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for answering them all, because I was copied on them all, and I did read them, but there's just a few too many for me to do this time of year. I'd also like to address a couple things that were spoken about in open forum. I think what we saw was a really divisive topic, and some of the comments were unnecessarily aggressive, I felt, and I felt that some of the people who were taken aim at did a commendable job in responding to not responding, actually. So thank you. I think it's a democracy when we can all speak what we think without running down someone else. So for those who did that, thank you. The one gentleman who has left did speak about how, why don't we just enforce our property standards as opposed to going to court. I don't think he quite understood we don't have property standards, which is what we were talking about. So I've mentioned this the last two times, and totally concur. This is the absolute wrong time of year to be discussing this. Some of us have gotten some comments from farmers just in the last couple days. Otherwise, I heard nothing about it. And I have been a farmer for 41 years, and my initial reaction was, what? Wait, no, I can't cut my lawn to 6 inches. I don't even know what that means. And what about the vexatious claims, which you're talking about? How would they be addressed? Now, my clerk, who I trust completely, said there is a gray area. We would see if they were just being vexatious. And I understand that, but that's not in writing, and nobody else heard that, but whoever was, you know, so bored enough as to listen to this, I guess. And then we questioned FIPA, which you've gone into, which I had never heard of, and what is a normal farm practice. And I think there's just so many questions. But there is a letter from Wayne Caldwell. And Wayne Caldwell, for those of you who are not used to him, I've been listening to him and following him for years. He's a professor in rural planning and development at the University of Guelph. His areas of expertise include rural land use planning, agriculture, healthy rural communities, farmland preservation, facilitation, conflict resolution, public participation. He has been involved for decades in trying to help farmers and with planning. And he supports some sort of property standards. So that there really twigs my attention too as a farmer, going, okay, this guy has always had our back, and he's going, well, his letter says, it references that when you look at it, when we'll go further, I'll read it out then, but it says it's to help the farmers, and he gives good reasons, and that really caught my attention. So I was back at the lake having a cup of tea with a couple farmers, and I spoke to them about how this was going to be on the agenda, and they knew nothing about it. And one of them said, it's like they're trying to sneak it by us. Okay, perception is everything. That is not what we're trying, at least that's not what I'm trying to do, and I don't think any of us are. So that just tells you right there that farmers are not following the agenda in the middle of summer. Second of all, the other farmer said, it's like those lakeshore people are just trying to make us stop farming, which, by the way, I don't agree with. But this process has been driven by one specific property. That doesn't mean that the end result needs to be considered for that specific property, and I don't think it should. Sorry to everybody in the room. I think it has to be for everybody. But without public consultation and without the people who are actually being mostly affected by it and having any idea that it's going on, the process is flawed. So I would like to move forward with this, but not by staff's recommendation. I would like to see a public process where we get the information out to the people who are mostly affected by it and get their input. Look at you did some work there, Evan, and thank you on all the different ones. And I also would suggest that we call in Wayne Caldwell and say, what do you think? I mean, he did at one point have a property in ACW. I don't know if he still does. Because one last thing, when we talked about different things for seasonal residents, we are very cognizant to do it during the time of year, and we also contact the Ashfield-Colborne Lakeshore something association, which will send it to the other. Roger Watt's really good at that. Now, farmers are not bound by one association, like there's 22 or whatever they are, all bound by the one, but they all by law have to be part of the OFA, the NFU, or the CFFO. You have to do it. Every year you pay $250. We could contact them, or we could send them out a direct mailing, which is what we did when we were doing all the zoning changes. There's a lot of people going to be affected by this, and it's way scarier than it needs to be. I don't think it's as scary as it certainly sounds first off, but I think we need real public education before we move forward on this, and public input, and that would be what I'd like to see come from this agenda item.
Thank you for that. I agree. Public input. Absolutely. Further comments? Councillor Snowblin, please.
I'll just concur with a lot of what Councillor Miltenberger said, and I thank Councillor Hickey for providing the background information that he did. That was a lot of work and much appreciated. Dr. Wayne Caldwell is still a resident of ACW, very highly esteemed and very knowledgeable about farm practices, farm planning, and so on. I agree with you. I think that he would be an ideal source. And he has nothing to gain or lose by it, from what I understand. So somebody impartial like that. I agree that this is way scarier, I'll quote you, way scarier than it probably needs to be. But I'll also point out that equal is not equitable. And so I think we have to find a balance between what's equal and what's equitable. And I always kind of go back to the analogy that if the speed limit is 80 kilometers an hour and you're going 80 kilometers an hour down the road, you probably don't have anything to worry about getting a speeding ticket. But if you're going in, if you're in an 80 and you're going 120 and you get a speeding ticket, you shouldn't be surprised. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're going along and you're doing everything what you feel is in the parameters of what is encompassed by a bylaw or property standards, whatever it is, then you shouldn't be fearful of some overlord coming down on you and slapping your wrists and slapping you with a fine and thou shalt not. I don't think that this township is, built like that from the staff's point of view. I don't think they come down on you right away and slap you with fines and condemn you. I think there's open communications, but I think there's a lot that can happen before that. Totally agree that this is probably something that should go up for public consultation. I fully endorse that. And I think if we can come together with what can make everybody happy, I think that would be a win for the township, and regardless of what other townships are doing.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Clerk, did you? Deputy Mayor, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and this is through to Florence. Just looking at this for myself, we need to defeat this motion and then have somebody bring in another motion forward to look further at this, or what is the next step?
Okay, thank you for the question. Clerk, please.
Twofold. There's no motion on the floor, so there's nothing to defeat. It was just a staff recommendation and a report, and no member of council has moved it, so there's nothing to defeat. My second point that I was going to speak to was I have a recommended action for the council minutes. If I will say it, council requested staff prepare a report with a proposed public consultation process to review possible changes to the property standards bylaw. And with that, we would come back to a future meeting with a suggested process. You know, it could be as simple as something as we've already established, or something as in-depth as a committee similar to the short-term rental committee. So that's what I've got proposed.
Okay, so that is for clarification, that is in addition to what is in print, or different than what is in print when it comes to a show of hands of council as to whether to move forward or not?
So again, there's no motion on the floor. It was just a recommendation. No member of council has initiated or suggested that we proceed at all with that. So an alternative, giving, you know, hearing what council's saying today, it sounds like a public consultation process is what what everybody's interested in. So if that is the will of council, then we will provide a report at the next meeting suggesting how to proceed.
The process, yeah, okay. Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor, please.
Yeah, and will there be time in there? Because as Jennifer said, like wintertime's not good for the cottagers, summertime's not good for the farmers. So we want to do this either over a long stretch of time and catch both, or at a time that's good for both.
Okay, thanks for the question. Clerk, please.
We will do our best to consider all factors. There you go.
Okay. Further comments? Councillor Blake, please.
Yeah, thank you. I do have a few concerns. Evan brought up a lot of good points earlier with the questions and not being able to find answers to them. Just looking in the one report here from our staff, who decides if something is a normal farm practice? If there is a dispute, and I believe there will be, the decision is made by the Normal Farm Practices Protection Board, the NFPPB, a provincial tribunal. Farmers can apply to the board for a determination, and so on and so forth. I can't say this is a fact, but I have a hunch that there's likely not a lot of small rural area farmers on that board. It seems to be the case with a lot of those boards, provincially and federally. So if we're having trouble finding the answers to those questions, I think that's going to be a very, very common question that we see. I am not opposed to the public consultation, but I struggle with how we're going to get these answers to these people when we can't even find that on a website or something. And it seems, I could be wrong, but maybe, Evan, did you reach out to these people and you never heard back on what these answers might be? So that concerns me, that we might bring in public consultation and not be able to provide people with the answers to these questions. So that makes me a little hesitant, but thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Clerk, please.
As staff, if we were to have a committee to look into this, it basically endorses the opportunity to dig deeper and basically to spend staff time digging into it on a deeper level. In principle, you know, it does the Farm Practices Review Board. It is a tribunal. It's a quasi-judicial tribunal, similar to the Ontario Land Tribunal or the Drainage Tribunal or even the Court of Revision as it is here. Those members, especially like say as an example with the Drainage Tribunal, they're not full of people from the city. You know, OMAFRA takes their time to hand select people from different industry points in there. So again, I'm not fully well versed in it. I did not dive any deeper into it as I was not requested to do so. So again, if this does get pushed to a committee standpoint, we could look into it a little bit deeper. I would have conversations with OMAFRA about what this means.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Forster, please.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. I have had a lot of phone calls in the last day or so, but we do have a group of people that aren't happy with the way things are. I think we should look at it further, but other than that, we're not going to pass anything today, and I want to make that clear. So that's my thoughts on that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for those accurate comments. Any other questions or comments from council on this?
If staff would like to, or if council would like staff to proceed with a report on public consultation, then I suggest just a show of hands. Thank you.
Okay, that will be the question, whether we would like staff to proceed to come back with a consultation process for council's consideration, and we will support it or we will not. Is that fair? Okay, I'm going to ask for a show of hands if council is in support of this. Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to 10.1, it is the Water Department and the Veolia report. It is for information purposes. All members of council, I hope, have read that. Are there any questions on this report? Seeing none, the Ben Miller and Century Heights Water Distribution System, the inspection records and rating records. Again, for information purposes, are there any questions on this? And 10.3 is the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund approval. And ACW was very fortunate to have been awarded $2.1 million for the eligible costs of the project. I did attend a photo presentation of that probably 3 weeks ago. And I'm really, really happy that the government saw fit provincially to support this initiative within ACW for safe water of the drinking system expansion. Any questions on this? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, thanks. A question, I think, for the treasurer. We had got $2,110,156 towards eligible costs dependent on your TPP. What does this mean, and what was the total cost of that project?
Okay, thanks for the question. Are you prepared to answer that, treasurer, please?
So the TPA is the transfer payment agreement, which we don't have a copy of yet from the province, but it outlines the total project costs as estimated back in, well, I think it was 2023 or when we first applied. So it's a cost share project, so the township is responsible for, I think, 25%, and then the federal and provincial government will share the 75%. So any costs outside of that will be the responsibility of the township. That project is currently underway, and I don't have the tendered amount off the top of my head, but I do recall it was a little bit under budget. Oh, Tom has it here.
So the original contract value was around 1.4 million, and the total work to date is 1.45 million.
Okay, thank you for that. Please, Councillor Miltenberg.
If they gave us $2 million and the cost is 1.4 million, are they paying for everything, or are we still paying for 25% of that cost?
Thank you for the question. I'll defer to our staff. Ellen, please.
There are additional costs, not just the tendered construction. So there's engineering, there's some of the EA that was done in preparation for the work, as long as it was after, I think, April 2023. So it's based on the actual costs incurred. So if it's under budget and we spend less than budgeted in the application, that we budgeted in the application, it's still only 75-25 split.
Yeah, thank you. I think, less interested in the actual number, but thank you than the percentage and how it works. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. Any further questions? It's for information purposes. Comments? Certainly happy that ACW was deemed appropriate by the provincial government for support of this drinking water system expansion. 11.1 is a tile drainage loan rating bylaw. I would ask if there's any questions on this, and if not, if council is in support of consideration of adopting this in section 18. Show of hands, please. And that is supported by council. Thank you. We do have the Public Works report prepared by Thomas McCarthy. It is for information purposes. Are there any questions of Tom on this report? And I'll go first to Councillor Hickey and then Deputy Mayor Van Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment to Tom. I've got a lot of compliments about the grass cutting shoulder. It's way back, it's nice and cut short and cut way down into the ditch. I think it's a good job, so compliments to I think it's an outside source that does it this round, but just compliments to that company. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Deputy Mayor, please.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Dungannon Road, Tom, there's a hill there that's washing out all the time, and I've had a couple complaints about it, or mainly, not really complaints, questions, as to, is there a plan for us to fix that, and so it'll stop doing that? Maybe retrieve some gravel, you know, whatever. But is it on the agenda to be looked at? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Tom, please.
Coincidentally, we put in for locates to do work on the hill about 2 weeks ago, and we're trying to get that done in September. Challenges we're going to face in that location are the fiber optic cable is buried on one side of the hill. There is corduroy sticking out of the middle of the road in the middle of the hill, and there's like a spring coming out through it. So we're going to do our best to shoulder it and shape it, but more work's probably going to need to be done over there.
Okay, thanks for that.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Councillor Snowblin, please.
Could you specify what hill, please? I don't think you mentioned that.
Deputy Mayor.
Well, I have Dungannon Road runs down from Dawson's all the way down through, and then when you get to the second concession, is that right? Is it second or third concession? That hill.
Okay, you're good with that, Councillor Snowblin? Okay, thank you. Councillor Forster?
So, yeah, thanks, Ben. Is this on the Wawanosh side? I take it right? Yeah, not Dauphin's, right?
Yeah, that's what he was.
Brindley's, yeah, because it's paved that way, right?
Just use your
Okay,
microphone,
that's what I
please.
thought.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, sorry, and if it's me that you're asking, yeah, it is Wawanosh side.
Okay. Any further questions or comments on Public Works report? If not, thank you very much for this, Tom. 12.2 is the appointment of the part-time landfill operator. And does council have any questions on this? And if not, I will ask for a show of hands for consideration of this in section 18 as a bylaw. If council is in support of this. That's supported by council. Thank you. Committee reports. Do any members of council have any committee reports that they would like to share at this time, please? And I will go first to Councillor Miltenberg.
Yeah, I have a few, but their minutes are further on. The one I'd like to speak to is I did go to AMO, which is a 4-day conference in Ottawa. I'm looking at the clock because I know some of you are like, talk more, and some of you are like, I think some of you are saying talk more, but some of you are saying talk less. I'm not going to go talk about every session I went to. I want to highlight a couple. They always have women's networking breakfast, and then they have like a session on it. And I do try to hit one, even though I will say I feel uncomfortable, because if it was men's networking, I'd get my back up. But some men do come to this, and they're largely from more urban centers, but there is a real issue with the abuse of women on council, especially through social media, and they talk about how they handle it, and a great comfort to them and a great help actually is the support of their male colleagues on the council. So we don't have that problem here, and I'm thankful for you guys sometimes if I don't say it. That's all I want to say about that. Yeah, take that to the bank. Mark it on the calendar. It's the only time I'll say it. I did also go to a youth networking. I was going to go to the women's, and I thought, oh, I've gone to one. I'm going to the youth one. And I'm really thankful I did on behalf of the ECDEV committee, and I'll bring more of that information to them, because these were 3 people in their 20s, and they talked about the importance of working with the schools and some good ideas there. So I thought they were really good. And I went to one from IESO, which we know is involved here with our wind turbines. And not surprisingly, they did reiterate that over the next 2 decades, there's going to be a 75% increase for electricity. And there's a lot of changes coming in the provincial government because of that. The two that really spoke to me a lot, and one again is for the ECDEV committee, but it was on arts and culture and the money that it brings into the municipality. And the per capita thing that you're supposed to aim for is $25 per person, which I don't think we hit, and that's what Toronto was at. And it was put on by the municipality of Grey Highlands, which caught my attention, because when Kingsbridge closed, we were looking for ways to organize. And the place that I went to was the Grey Highlands. They had a full-day session for their volunteer groups, and it told them how to fundraise, how to run meetings, best practices. I came home with so much information from the Grey Highlands. They are really, really forward-thinking when it comes to community groups. They did mention they did have someone from Stratford, but the Stratford Festival started. They went to council. They wanted to start the Stratford Festival. They gave them $125, which in today's dollars is $1,500. So you can see the economic development that can come from these things. And the reason it was on the agenda is because there's a huge decrease in provincial funding, and they're trying to say municipalities should step up. And when it came to arts and culture, they agreed, because I did ask the question, well, our culture often revolves around farms and tractors and pulls, and they said that yes, that is a way of culture too. But I would like to look at it a different way too. But the biggest thing, I go to the impact sessions all the time, mostly because I don't understand what's going on, and that is the people who assess. They're not the government that runs it; they're the board that implements the policies. And as you know, there has been a freeze since 2016 on the assessments. And Impact really, really would like them to release, start it over, because what I didn't realize was if you build a house and today it's assessed at 2016 values. They go back in time and try to figure out what it should be. And so when it comes, I think we all know what's happened to properties since 2016. There's going to be a big, big change for people. And it's not necessarily the big change in agriculture or the big change in the seasonal properties that are, more second homes or whatever, the more expensive homes. It's how they change in relation to each other. So there's going to be big winners and big losers in this municipality. Nobody knows what it is, and not from the top, but in talking to the people. I went to 2 sessions on it, and they tend to have really big names at the top, the regional managers, and then a whole bunch of employees sitting there listening, or people who work directly in it. And they said the reason that they felt it was delayed at this point, because it's now a political question as well, because the luxury homes have gone up so much that it's going to be such a burden on the extremely wealthy that the politics of doing that are difficult, apparently. So that's what's been delaying it. So there's so much to unpack that, as Florence knows, I did go speak to the regional manager afterwards and explain everything. And I said, what are you going to do for education? Because once it finally changes, everything's going to go crazy. You have to reassess everybody, send things out, and the public questions are going to be huge. Like, do you have a package we can use to explain the impact on everybody? And they do, but she also said that they would make presentations to councils. So I requested that she reached out to Florence, and they are coming in October to explain it way better than I could, and to explain the ramifications and what we can do once it happens, because it's now 9 years. And they're supposed to do it every 4 years, and actually, I think Ontario is one of the few that does it every 4 years. A lot of provinces do it every year, which, makes a little more sense than every 4 years. But it's going to be a big problem when it happens, and we need to be ready to hit the ground running. So I've asked someone else to come in and talk about it, because I just find it so fascinating. And that would be my report from Emil.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. Any additional reports? Councillor Blake, please.
Yeah, thank you. Another update for the Ben Miller Hall. September 11th again is a roast beef dinner. Tickets are still available. They also received another $4,000 grant to go towards their playground equipment from the Retired Teachers of Ontario group. September 20th, the Fall Euchre starts back up. That seems to be a big hit for a lot of the community in the surrounding area there. And also on September 20th, the family nights start back up for the winter months. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Anything additionally? Okay, if not, I have attended a few events on behalf of ACW. The first one was on the 14th of August, the Gateway White Paper. And that was a day when the research students delivered their findings on the research that they've done through the summer. And Gateway is an organization, we're very, very fortunate to have it in our area, and it encompasses Grey Bruce, Huron and Perth, and it addresses the healthcare challenges and solutions that we are experiencing. And one is emergency room closures. And I made a comment that we're very fortunate that Huron Health Systems is the only corporation in Huron and Perth that has been able to keep our emergency rooms open. And it is significant to a lot of residents and something that is very, very important. Along with Jennifer, I also attended the AMO conference and was able to attend a number of sessions. One was activating provincial support for emergencies, because we always want to be prepared in advance whenever that may happen, and that was very, very interesting. Andrew Coyne was the keynote speaker on Monday morning, and his perspective was very interesting and accurate as far as I would suggest the implications of the President of the United States and how it affects Canada. Premier Ford also addressed the conference. Another one that was very interesting was the partnerships to develop the municipal staff talent, and I'm sure that all of our staff are very, very sensitive to that and the need for that in continuing to have talented individuals come forward to their respective municipalities and county. I also attended a housing and land use planning session, and along with integrating housing and health supports. It is very interesting that many municipalities experience the same challenges. We may think we're unique, however, many experience the same issues that we're dealing with. Minister Jones, from Minister of Health, also addressed the Assembly, and there was probably about 3,500 people there, along with Minister of Infrastructure, Kinga Surma, who was very responsible for the grant that we received. Minister of Municipal Housing and Affairs, Rob Flack, also Honourable Rob Flack, addressed the gathering and was very straightforward in the need for more housing and anything we can do in our respective municipalities to address the housing issue. I also attended a session on short-term risks and long-term opportunities as far as the tariffs and trade with the U.S. and the effect that that has. It was a great, very informative conference. On the 24th, I want to make note that AMGH Foundation held a long table dinner at the airport, and it was held at the airport this year because of the construction at the square in Goderich, and it was an excellent location. Councillor Snoblin was also in attendance of that. The generosity of those in attendance was very, very evident, and it's all about healthcare. Goderich, AMGH is undertaking an MRI campaign for an MRI coming to that facility, and it was extremely both well attended and supported financially. On the 26th, Ben Miller Hall Group had invited me to attend a awards celebration for all of the youth in ACW that have played baseball out of Ben Miller, and from age 5 up to 13, there's 81 young people that played ball and it was absolutely great. And I thanked all of the volunteers, coaches, on behalf of ACW, and especially, you know, we remember we had a little issue in late winter, early spring as far as volunteers stepping up, and they did that, and I really congratulate them on that. It's great to see the playground equipment going to move forward. And last week I also attended a Southern Ontario Isotope Coalition meeting, and the intent of that, it was an advisory committee, and the intent of that was to collaborate in moving forward. And we're very fortunate to have Bruce Power in our vicinity with the isotope production, and they're going to double it for cancer treatment, and that will benefit everyone. So those are some of the events that I wanted to share. We have nothing under correspondence for direction, a number of items for information. Is there anything that anyone would like to discuss under information? And I will go to Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, it's 16.1, Wayne Caldwell's letter. So in that letter, he has
16.10, right?
yeah, point
Yeah,
one.
thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Forgot the zero. So he has a little 3 bulleted section, which I don't need to read out loud. You can all read it, but it talks about why the property standards bylaw would be good, how it strengthens protections for farmers, clarifies enforcements, and provides consistency, and talks about that. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because I looked at the property standard and FFPPA sample public documents that Kelly had created, and I would like the change in those to be, rather than, I think the focus of those sample ones would be the farmers. So in those sample documents, we would need to say why you want it. And these are very compelling reasons right here why it's good for the farmers specifically, because those are the ones who we're trying to get to understand it. That's all. Thank you.
Point well taken. Thank you very much for addressing that. We've all read that, all of the correspondence. And yeah, as you commented, Professor Caldwell, we're very fortunate to have him reside within our municipality, and also the vision he has about being a balanced approach moving forward. Anything else on that? Is there any unfinished business that anyone would like to bring up for a future meeting? Seeing none, we will address our bylaws. We do have a closed session today, and the first would be the bylaw to appoint the landfill operator, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for this. Councillor Hickey, Deputy Mayor Vanstone, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 49-2025, being a bylaw to appoint the position of part-time landfill site operator, and then it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally passed the second day of September 2025. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. The consolidated fee bylaw is 50-2025, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Miltenberg and Forrester, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 50-2025, being a bylaw to set various fees for the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and then it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally pass the second day of September 2025. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. The tile drainage loan rating bylaw, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for this, and that is Councillor Blake and Miltenberg, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 51-2025, being a bylaw imposing special annual drainage rates upon land in respect of which money is borrowed under the Drainage Act, Tile Drainage Act, and that it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally pass the second day of September 2025. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. And finally, the reserve and reserve fund policy, a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Forrester and Miltenberg, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 52-2025, being a bylaw to adopt a reserve and reserve fund policy for the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and that it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally pass the second day of September 2025. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. We do have a closed session today, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder to move into a closed session. And that is Deputy Mayor Vanstone and Councillor Hickey, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council move into a closed session in accordance with Section 239 in brackets 2 and brackets B and brackets E of the Municipal Act, with the CAO, clerk, and deputy clerk remaining in attendance at 10:29 a.m. for the purpose of discussing personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, as well as litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals that could affect the municipality or local board, that is the OLT, and we will then discuss the Economic Development Committee. All in favor of this motion is read. That is carried. I'll be recessed for 10 minutes and come back at 10:40 in our closed session. Thanks to all members of the public joining us this morning. Okay, thank you very much. ACW Council is now in our open session again. As we went into closed session, and reporting out would be for the appointment of a individual to the ACW Economic Development Committee, and I would entertain a motion for this, please. Deputy Mayor Van Stone, a motion on this? Yep.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Mr. Jacobson.
Do we have a seconder for this? Councillor Forrester, and that would be the approval of ACW Council that Morton Jacobson be appointed to the ACW Economic Development Committee. All in favor of this motion is read. And that is carried. Thank you. The confirmatory bylaw, I would entertain a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Hickey and Blake, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 53-2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council meeting held on September 2nd, 2025, and that it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally passed the second day of September 2025. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. And a motion to adjourn, if you would please. Deputy Mayor Van Stone, Councillor Forrester, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council does now adjourn to meet again on the 16th day of September 2025 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the mayor. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much to all, and please enjoy the remainder of your day.